Good morning and welcome to Animal Talk Thursdays. And while we're doing this, I'm Dawn Heyman, co-founder of Spring Farm Cares and also professional animal communicator. So while we're doing this, and I have a couple of announcements to make, if you want to put in the comments where you're listening from, even if you're watching the recorded version of this, we love to know where you're listening from. So welcome everyone. A couple of announcements. Next week, so a week from today, will be our final Animal Talk Thursday for 2024. We will look to restart this in 2025, but the reason being is 2 weeks from today is Thanksgiving in the United States, as I know we have people from other countries watching as well. And on that day, we start our annual tradition of our daily messages of gratitude from the animals. And so we're going to be fully involved in doing that. And we can't do everything at the same time. So we hope you will watch every day. We will be posting a message from an animal where I ask the animal, what are you most grateful for? Or do you have a message that you'd like to share? And I share what their message is. Many of you have been following this tradition. We've been doing it for over 17 years. It's at least 17. I think it's longer. But many of you have told us that it's become part of your holiday tradition as well, which is very thrilling for the animals to know that their messages are being heard and cherished like that. But this year we actually have an upgrade to our tradition, and that is that we will be also hosting a video of the animal with me reading the message out on the video. So you're going to be able to follow us in various places. You can follow us here on Facebook. It'll be posted on our website every day, and it'll be on our YouTube channel every day. So you'll be able to see these messages every day, 2 weeks, starting 2 weeks from now. What date is that, Becca? The 28th? I don't know.
28th, maybe? Don't quote me.
Yeah. Anyway, Thanksgiving Day, and it goes all the way through to New Year's Eve. So there we go.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a few questions from some of you from last week, so we're going to start with that. The first question is, we talked about this way back in the beginning of the series, but the idea that animals understand the circle of life and they understand, when they live in the wild, they could be killed by a predator, and they have an acceptance around that, that we might not understand. Somebody asked if that is true, why is it that they still act afraid when they're being pursued by a predator? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And by the way, we're in a cat room here, broadcasting live from the cat room. So as cats come in, I don't know who you can see in the picture, but the black and white one is Gomez. There might be a gray and white one coming over in my lap. He keeps coming in and out while we were prepping for this. So anyway, we'll try to introduce them when they come in. So this question is one that perplexes humans something awful and causes a lot of contention. So please, I need to give this answer in full because I get misquoted on this all the time, because we humans get very almost extreme about this. So yes, animals understand the predator-prey relationship. So wild rabbits, wild mice understand, life for them is actually being eaten by something, most likely. That's most likely what happens with them. They don't have an outlook on growing old to be elderly, whatever. That's just not in their purview. That's not how their life goes. However, so I'm asked this all the time, then why do they struggle, or why do they try to get away from a predator? Well, of course they're going to do that. So when I talk about that they have an understanding of this, I'm talking about on a higher level. But their physical bodies have just like we do, the essence of surviving. There's a survival instinct. So of course they're going to do that. They don't just see a cat coming and say, oh, it's okay, I'm going to get eaten. That's not how I'm meaning that. So we humans kind of can't understand this. For one thing, we're on we're on a different side of this. We're the predator, not the prey. So we have a totally different understanding than they have being a prey animal. I'm probably not answering that question in full, but their instinct is still going to be to try to survive. That's a natural instinct for every living thing.
So is it almost like they have their more physical, instinctual body and then sort of their higher
Yes.
self that understands the whole
that.
scheme of things?
Yes. But more importantly, in nature, in the predator-prey relationship, what we talked about, and we've talked about this in other videos, so people can, look them up either on our website or on our YouTube channel, whatever, to see other videos in this series, because we've covered this topic a couple of times, and the question keeps coming up. But there is a natural relationship between a predator and their prey of respect and dignity, and how a life ends, and ending a life. There's a relationship between them. Humans tend to not have relationship with their food. We do the opposite. We cut off our responsibility, respect, and the dignity of how we would treat food animals. That is a whole other topic that I'm not going to get into in this, because it would take me longer than what we have here to really dive into that. But animals respect that sacred relationship between predator and prey. That food relationship is not the way humans do it. It's completely different. So I think that's why humans struggle with this, to understand this, because we really don't have that kind of understanding, unfortunately.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, another question we got last week was about grieving.
Yeah.
Do animals grieve the same way we do? If it's an animal companion of theirs or a human companion of theirs, what does that look like? Can we help them when they're grieving?
So just like no two people grieve the same way, it's the same so when the question is asked to me, do animals grieve like humans do? Yes, they feel grief just like humans do. Does it look just like, the way we express grief? Not always. But no two humans grieve the same way either. So no two animals grieve the same way. It's very unique to each individual as to how they grieve, but absolutely they do grieve. We've seen it here endless times. When an animal is abandoned by an owner, not just from death, but they don't know what happened to the owner or their person, they grieve. There's a lot of grief about that. So they respond in different ways. Some of them become very despondent, openly so that you see it, and you can look at your animal and say, oh my goodness, they're so depressed and they're going through problems. And others of them act as if nothing has happened and nothing has changed, and life goes on and they just keep rolling. But if you look at people in your life, there are people that do that too. Doesn't mean they're not grieving. It just means that they're carrying on in whatever way that they carry on. So that's one thing. I'm sorry, Gomez. So since this is an animal communication thing, Gomez is sitting here. He just rolled over and he's listening to everything I'm saying. He's making direct eye contact, and he just said to me, "This is an incredible conversation."
Wow.
Like, it's really blowing his mind here.
He's intently looking at you.
Yes, and he's like, "Wow, He said, "I've known cats that have grieved too." So if we get an answer from Gomez to a question, we're going to go with it. Live.
Absolutely.
Because he's really into this. Okay.
I love that. Yeah, whatever you want to say, Gomez, the floor is yours. So if you do have an animal who's visibly struggling and is despondent, is there anything we can do to help them, or is it just sort of like they need to go through the process themselves?
So a little bit of both. They do need to go through the process themselves, just like humans do. Can you do anything to help them? Just supporting them, letting them know, that they're loved and they're safe and they're there. I think that's the biggest thing. Just like with people, just letting them know you're there and that they're supported. And they do go through it. They go through it various ways. I watched one of my dogs. We had 3 dogs 2 years ago, and 2 of them died 1 week apart from the other, and left the third one by himself. And he had originally, when I got him as a puppy, he came from a litter of 9, and he was the 9th dog in our household. And so he had never been an only dog ever in his life, and he had no frame of reference for what that was like, and it was devastating to him. I was devastated watching and feeling him. This is Arturo. Sorry, Arturo. It was devastating to feel his depression, and it went on for several months. And he's older now, and some of the stuff I wrote off as him just being elderly now and going through aging changes until a couple months later we got a young dog to be a companion for him because we could see how bad his depression was, and he started to come out of it. But it wasn't until we got a third dog that all of a sudden we saw him come to life again, and he needed that pack mentality. He just needed that. Now I watched him go from elderly and kind of getting, more and more slowing down to suddenly being a puppy again and wanting to play all the time. So that's when I realized how profoundly depressed he had been. So it varies.
So on that topic of getting a new animal, I think a lot of us give ourselves a lot of grief or maybe experience some guilt and uncertainty when one of our animals passes away and we're reckoning with, should I get a new one? So I'm curious, what does the existing animal in the household that's still living think, and what does the animal who's passed on think when we get a new animal?
It's a great question. And again, this one varies by situation. So you kind of have to feel out if, there are two schools of thought on this, and I get this a lot when I hear this all the time when somebody's animal dies. Family members will say, just go out and get another one because that's what's going to help you. But the person will sometimes go to a place of, I'm never going to have another one again because I could never betray the love of that animal. Like that was the animal that I was closest to. So here's what I want to say about that. Our animals in spirit, when they pass, they want to make sure that we're okay. They don't want to see us live the rest of our life sad and in pain. They don't feel betrayed. For the most part, I just want to say for the most part, could there be an exception to this? Sure. But for the most part, they don't want to see us, they want to see us be happy, and they want to see us have relationships again. So they're not asking us in our relationship with them to make them the last, animal in your life just because they left. I have not found that to be the case for when I've done thousands of consultations with animals that have passed in their people. I've not found an animal that said, don't go get another animal. You'd be betraying me. That just, I just have not had that experience. Right, Gomez? Yeah.
And does it happen sometimes that our animal that's passed on will kind of help send the new one to us or facilitate that somehow?
Absolutely. Now that I've experienced a lot. And I've witnessed it. I've experienced it myself, and I've witnessed animals do that with their people, that they frequently will help them find the next dog or the next cat or the next horse or whatever animal it is. I'll just tell you a personal story from me when I just told you about the two dogs that we lost in a week. When we went looking for a companion we were actually looking for another senior dog for my senior dog. We weren't looking for a puppy. We were looking for a smaller dog. And at the time, we scoured, humane societies and rescues in a 100-mile radius from us. And at that time, we couldn't find one that fit what we needed in our house because we have cats too, and they needed to be cat friendly. And a lot of the dogs needs to be without cats. And it's like, come on, how can we not find a dog? Or a lot of them were really large dogs, and we just were looking for something smaller. It didn't have to be a tiny little dog, but smaller. So definitely we were adamant on no puppies because we were worried that Jesse, my senior dog, wouldn't be able to handle energy of a puppy. So this is Sinatra, right?
Yeah.
So in our search, we ended up going to a rescue, and that rescue had this really, really shy little lab mix, and Jessie is a lab, so we thought, well, that might be a good combination. And she was smaller because she was a mix, but she was 6 months old. So when we went in, there were all these amazing signs. The room that we were in, they had pictures on the wall of dogs that were painted on the walls, just like portraits of dogs, and it had names under them of some of the dogs they have placed, but some volunteer came in and actually painted them on the wall. And on this wall of this room we were in to meet our soon-to-be new friend were all these dogs that were dog names that we had in our household. So and one of them was one of the ones that had just passed away. And we were reading the names and going, this is a little eerie. So we knew that it wasn't coincidental. And sure enough, this dog was absolutely meant to be with us. So we ended up adopting her. But anyway, we felt that the signs were all there that she was being sent to us. And so we abandoned our preconceived notion of no young dog because she was 6 months old. So we followed the signs, and we got the one that our dear friends on the other side were saying, hey, take her, she'll be great.
And it was the right move.
It was the right move.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. And I think a lot of us have experienced when we get a new animal that sometimes they like fall into our lap. You don't even have to look for them almost. So you have to trust yourself. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I've had people, I had a client once who told me this story. This is a true story. So, their daughter was young. I don't know, 7, 8 years old. Had a dream. Their dog had just died, and she had a dream that the dog was coming back. And she saw this dog as a little black and white puppy. And so the mother, called me and was like, how am I going to know where to find her? That's what everybody is like. Well, you got to tell me, where am I going to find her? And I wish it was simple like that. I wish I could say to you, she's going to be a black and white puppy. You're going to find her in, the county shelter on November 2nd at 4:00 if you go. It doesn't work that way. You have to use your own heart and intuition to guide yourself. You get these weird things. So anyway, black and white puppy. They didn't find one anywhere. They went to the shelters. They looked around the rescues. They couldn't find any. So the mother had all but given up. It had only been like 4 weeks since the dog had died, 4 or 5 weeks. It wasn't that long. When one day the child was prone to getting tantrums and would get way out of control when she got them. And so this one day she had this complete meltdown, and she was crying and screaming that she wanted a dog. She wanted her dog. She wanted her dog. And she was like, this is the day. I just know it. And they couldn't, the mother could not comfort her at all. So finally, to try to calm her down, she said, come on, let's go for a drive. We're going to go to the mall, and we'll just go shopping. So she was going to take her shopping. And they were in the car. It was a rainy day, pouring rain, and they're coming down this 2-lane highway. They're going really fast on this road. I mean, it was like a 55-mile-an-hour road. When all of a sudden they see something in the middle of the road on the center lane, and it's pouring rain, and she slows down, and she sees this puppy just huddled on the center line with cars whizzing by it. And so she stops, and she opens her door, and she said, come on, puppy. And the puppy looked at her and jumped in the car and climbed up and saw the little girl, climbed up in the little girl's lap, laid down sopping wet, and the kid just lit up, and it was this little black and white puppy. And the kid said, this is the one. This is who I saw in my dream. Now, this adult then, the mother, calls me the next day and wants to know if I could confirm that this was the dog. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You really need me to do that? How could it not be your dog? Yeah, it was her dog. So they find us, like you say, they find us in really amazing ways. We just have to let it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and often unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just have to go with it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, I think we're about done today, but just a reminder, next week is the last week that we're going to be doing Animal Talk Thursday in 2024, because we're going to be transitioning into the end of the year animal messages from Thanksgiving Day until New Year's Day.
Right.
And then we'll resume Animal Talk Thursday in 2025. So if you have burning questions, please share them now, because last week is your last chance for this year to get your questions in.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.